Hello, Hockey World. It's Wednesday, September 26th, 2018.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I am Eklund, and you're watching the HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. Thank you very much. I'm doing my best voice I can today. Sorry for my anyway. All right, there goes Russ. He's out here already. See you, Russ.
The show's over.
That's fine. Remember, not the buzz. Okay.
Jeez.
We're going to start right up. We're not going to get into the Yuri Laterra thing, which is out there, except for to say, that it's the Flyers made a comment that they've talked to Yuri about it. They don't know anything, and they state that they have nothing to say about it this time. It sounds, like he had like some people had a party at his house and things got a little bit. Somebody got arrested or whatever, but he wasn't there, and who knows? And anyway, it's all just, it's an article out of Finland, so Lord knows what's going on. So not that the Finnish are terrible at reporting, because they're usually pretty good. But this is where we are right now. So we can't, like Russ said on XM earlier today, none of us here at least read Finnish. So
nobody speaks Finnish. We're all using Google Translate. Even the article is short.
Yeah.
Why is it coming out now? It happened over the summer. You know what I mean? Like,
it did happen. Yeah. It sounds like, I don't know. As we've learned, things come out at different times sometimes, and I do know, a lot. Finland's really interesting, and the only thing I can say about it is that I know a lot of hockey players who are from Finland, and there is like a circuit of they definitely party in the summer over in Finland. They go back there and they have fun, but not illegally, but there are.
And even to answer the chat room, like James says, a party at his house and he wasn't there. I used that one when I was 17. Now listen,
That's true. It's true, actually.
No, but the idea is, hey, look, he's only in it because he owns the house. He wasn't even there. So at this point, I would think they would have had enough time to find something. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. We don't know. But the idea is he wasn't there. So you have to give him the benefit of the doubt until you know more. That's all.
And, he has friends may have been there, and that's how, and, we may have, these guys, they are very free. Finnish people are very nice people. They're very free to lend their house to buddies who want to have parties. If they're not there, why not somebody use it? I know I've been in this situation before. I've seen people. I have a really good friend who goes to Finland, who's a Finnish scout who goes over there every summer and tells me that he goes from this guy's house to this guy's house, this guy's house, this guy's house, yeah. And they have fun, and they all have these beautiful lake houses that are incredible to go to in the summer. So somebody ended up there.
And we're not hard copy or inside edition. So until there's more definitive news, until there's more definitive news, then we're just gonna move on to whatever we can talk about.
We know nothing. All right, that's my. And
we're not even going to talk about Gritty today. We're done with Gritty.
That was my inside edition thing. Yeah. No news. Like I told you, I may have some Gritty rumors. I don't have anything new to report on the Gritty rumor front yet. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
I heard Animal from the Muppets is suing.
There are some discussions going on. I think of all the things I saw that he looks the most like, I must say he looks like the Bumble from the Abominable Snowman from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer the most, probably. That is actually the closest. He's white. That snowman is white. Remember that snowman anyway. There you go. If you're a big Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer fan like I am, you would know immediately what I'm talking about.
I like the Heat Miser. I'm not a Rudolph fan.
Well, someone said it's the perfect combination of the Heat Miser and that Bumble, which is true. But anyway, there's a lot of combination jokes out there about Gritty. I had some. There was a comment in our chat room. I'll get to that in a second about Gritty, because there was a really good comment that I liked. Let me pull that up. But let's first talk a little bit about the Nylander thing that's happening right now.
Yeah,
we're going to get into the New York teams today, beating the Islanders and Rangers. And
you mean William Nylander? We're going to talk about him. Okay.
Let's talk about about yeah, right. Matt's Nylander. No, William Nylander. William Nylander. Or Mikhail Nylander. I don't know which Nylander we're talking about. We're talking about William.
We're talking about William Nylander.
Not Alex, not Michael.
Not Michael, not Alex, William.
So the other day, I'm listening to XM, and I think it was Coolius, who was great on XM, amazing, and
he's great.
He's one of my favorites. By him and the guy you went on with today.
Scott Laughlin.
Scott Laughlin. They're Boomer. They have a great group there, but they're all really. But I like Coolius. Coolius really says things the way it is. Nice.
He has a lot of energy, man.
A lot of energy, and at times I think he does have definite connections within the Leafs organization, and some of the stuff he was saying about how well the players were playing in his stead,
Yeah.
it sounded like a Leaf talking point, like very much like, okay, these guys are playing, and I'm not, he's saying Nylander's got to be nervous today. He's got to be more nervous than he was yesterday because so and so had a really good game.
I think
that's typical, but that is typical of.
And Babcock has been saying the same thing, and it's true. I mean, I've watched or been to all of their preseason games, and
this is the ugly part of hockey, Mike, because it might be true, but this is the kind of stuff that usually is never said out loud, because at some point they aren't getting divorced, they're not.
No, but
when Nylander returns,
well, divorce is heavy. Now you're talking. That's a lot heavier than what's going on here.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. I mean,
but this is the situation.
Way on a week's vacation. No, sorry, I'm just
No, but right now you've got 3 players over the last couple years. One being the biggest free agent signing in recent history in John Tavares. The others being Morgan Riley and Nazem Kadri, who have taken less to sign with the Leafs, and that is that is what Kyle Dubas is trying to accomplish. Now, some players are going to balk at that, and that in a perfect world, that's what you want to do, but it may not happen. Certain players like Austin Matthews is probably going to get 100% of what he's asking for or close to it. But William Nylander, as good of a player he is a complimentary player. He plays on Austin Matthews' line. I have made the point now. Right now, obviously Tyler Ennis is not going to score as much as William Nylander. That's asinine. They might move Kasperi Kapanen or Andreas Janssen up there, and they probably won't score as much. Maybe next year, after a good year in the American Hockey League, a guy like Jeremy Bracco can step in, and I think he is a very talented player who could put up almost as many points as William Nylander. The point being, they have quality reserves that they can put in for William Nylander that they won't have as much of a hiccup. And I'll tell you something right now, his negotiating position is not strong at all.
But it's not strong at all, okay? Because he's going to get close to, according to my, you think for a little over $4 million. I think.
Well, I read your article, and I don't know if that was based on a source that you'd spoken to.
A source. Now let me get in my article, and I'll
please
talk from there. So I was calling around because my job is I was going to do another deep dive into teams, but I always do rumors first. There's no rumors out there. I go into my deep dives with teams, but if there is a rumor, I won't. That's what I'll chase. So I talked to one team who had read the quotes, and I'm not sure where they came from, but the quotes from Dubas in the paper that that teams had called about. I don't know where this was, but
he was interviewed on Primetime Sports on Fan 590
newspaper. What are we in the 20?
Not the newspaper. Sorry, he was interviewed in 590 and said something.
You get the newspaper off the stoop. You might have papers piled up on your stoop and you don't know it.
I do still read the newspaper, by the way, every Sunday. All right, so I'm from cover to cover. But anyway, so he said, I think the teams have called us. This is what someone had sent me. They wanted more to say how's it going. If it ever gets to the point where you can't get a deal done,
right?
We will be there. That something along those lines, right? And he said, but it's not close to that. And he said, we'll be able to figure this out. So he was very confident. He was, and Dubas has been very confident about signing his players. That's the one thing I'll give him more than any other GM I can ever remember. And I don't know if it's because he's young and he hasn't learned yet that sometimes these things don't work out, or whether it's because he just does have a real confidence about him, or whether he's
or because the player has no leverage. They really William Nylander. The only
way though, Mike. I mean, it plays a different way to the player when he says they're confident of getting signed, because the player's sitting there, and it puts the player into a weak position of weakness with the fan base. Okay, and that is something significant. That is something real. And Dubas might not think that's a problem, and it might not be a problem for the Maple Leafs. They might get this done, but when you sit there and say we're close, and that implies that you're close, and that implies that we think a deal can get done. And then if that doesn't get done, suddenly that pressure goes back on Nylander.
Yes, and that's what they're relying on, They're relying on
a good play. That's not a good way to. That's not a young player like this.
Let me just okay. I mean, right now, barring an offer sheet, which is not going to happen because offer sheets don't happen.
Right.
The only option for William Nylander this year is to play in Europe. And that's not going to happen either. If he does that, then it escalates to a whole new level. He wants to play in the NHL. He wants to make millions of dollars. His agent, Louis Gross, has used holdouts in the past. That's all part of the what's going on. Now, the thing that's regrettable here is that more than likely, if he doesn't sign by, say, tomorrow, he's going to miss the entire preseason. And then, where it starts costing him is next Wednesday when they start regular season games and he misses paychecks. Now, I and Russ has been of this opinion. I have been of this opinion for a long time that it's going to end up being a bridge. Both sides want the long-term deal, but they want it for different reasons. Nylander wants it because if he signs 7 or 8 years, they're buying 3 or 4 years of unrestricted free agency, and he believes he should be making money close to Leon Draisaitl.
Right.
The Leafs, go ahead.
Let's move on. And so what I was told, okay, and we can talk about the parallels to Pastrnak last year, which a lot of people are doing. That seems to be a common thing. Pastrnak was threatening to play in Europe last year, and all that stuff. So he was more threatening than Nylander has been threatening, by the way. Like, Nylander hasn't really threatened to play in Europe. It's just like you say, it's an option. Pastrnak was like ready to go to Europe. He had a European team lined up and everything.
Right.
Which is probably just a negotiating tactic. He doesn't want to play in Europe. He's not a European player even. He's not a European. Where Nylander, might be more comfortable playing in Europe. Pastrnak is where isn't he?
He's from the Czech Republic. He
is from the Czech Republic. I'm sorry. I always get that confused. I apologize. Anyway, I know another Pastrnak family that's Canadian. I always get them confused. The woman, and that's an actress. Anyway, so let's move on. But all right, so here we go. Now, Dubas says this, and when I talk to people, I hear something a little bit different. That actually offers were made. It wasn't just calling to say if things get better. But were actual offers, and I'm not surprised that that's the case. And Dubas is playing that again close.
I'm sure there's an offer out there right now, but obviously he doesn't like it, so he hasn't.
Right, but he's implying that he's playing the other side of it by saying, we're not even close to that. That is appeasing Nylander to a degree. That is the other side of it. Now, Dubas is very smart, way smarter than I am. So I'm not going to sit there and tell him how to do his job. And that is, if he wasn't doing that and he was doing the other stuff, which is like sort of anti-Nylander, it could get dicey. But in a way, he's saving himself by saying, okay, we're not even listening to offers. But what I've been told is that they are listening to offers. Okay. And that is totally not weird. That is just normal. And that's not anything against Dubas.
Other teams are going to do their due diligence, and part of that is also sort of making introductory offers. That makes perfect sense. It doesn't mean that the Leafs are going to act on it, but I think it's going to be stored in the memory banks of Kyle Dubas once Nylander gets signed, because he is going to get signed. And this is the thing. And I talked to Bill Waters today for one of the podcasts that I'll post on Hockey Buzz, and we were talking about the Nylander situation. And he's somebody who's negotiated contracts in the past and been a former assistant general manager. And he basically said, if it's a bridge, if it's a 6-year deal, that's fine. Get the deal done. But this could be the setup a year or two down the road when they have to sign Marner and Matthews and possibly Jake Gardner, that Nylander, if he's on a bridge deal and it comes up, and then 2 years down the road he's looking for the payday, there could be a trade at that point. If he signs the 6-year deal and he's on a contract where it's an amount where other teams would be very interested in a player who's 22 or 23 years old, then it could set up a trade there. That's why in what you wrote, Ak, you wrote and whoever your source was telling you a $5 million for 4 years. That's not going to happen for one reason. 4-year deal out of entry level walks him right to unrestricted free agent.
And I brought that up to him. I brought that up to him too. And he said, well, that's just what I heard. He said, I understand what you're saying. But people can only go off of what they've heard. So
right, it's either gonna be a 2 or 3 year bridge deal where they leave 1 year of either arbitration or 1 year of RFA to either extend or be able to make a move, or it's going to be 5, 6, 7 years. It's not going to be 4. 4 is the magic number. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, I could see that. End of the day, I really think it's going to be a 2-year deal, because I do think that, look, I don't have any inside sources, but I think at this point, with the season so close, all the possible chatter of the Leafs maybe bending a little more than they wanted to and everything else is pretty much over. Like at this point, they're going to want the player to get in there. If he doesn't get in there, they're definitely going to move on without him. And that's where he's lost really all of his leverage. There is no more leverage because they do have players to put in his spot. Now, if the Leafs start out 0-5, then maybe the pendulum swings back. But that's probably not going to happen. So you have to wonder at this point, if he doesn't sign the next couple days, what his camp is thinking.
I think you're right, and I think sometimes you just need a deadline, right? So sometimes you just need a deadline to get something done. This feels like one of those situations, and the teams that made offers, one of the offers was
there's a deadline. They're not going to tell us anyhow,
right? And the negotiation has not been acrimonious. It hasn't been like in the press. It hasn't been like
it's starting to get there.
No, not. I mean, we saw what happened with Pasternak last year. It was starting to get a little vicious. This hasn't really. I mean, really, we haven't.
It's getting good though, and
it's getting good. It's getting interesting, but I don't think it's getting.
It could get a little weird by this weekend, is what I've been told. But I think that everybody kind of feels that this gets done, like Friday, Saturday, somewhere in there, right? And that this is
very possible.
And and it probably will be a bridge deal, even though like. I guess Dubas also said something to the regard of that he, thinks that they're going to work out a long-term deal, or that they're trying to work out a long-term deal. Both sides want a long-term deal.
I think they're probably trying to work out a 7-year deal. I do.
I mean,
one source said to me was interesting was that Matthews, who has some more opinions than he lets on for that quiet guy he is, which is fine, and that's what you'd expect.
He's a smart.
He's a smart guy. That definitely talks about.
Guy.
Yeah. No, yeah. He knows what's going on, and he has opinions about things. Like he had opinions about his playing time last year. He has opinions about what power play unit he should be on. There's different things that I've heard, throughout the time.
But I'll continue on
but,
that.
But he has opinions on Nylander, and Nylander is a guy that he really wants on this team. And you can sit there and say that that he's doing fine with these other guys that he's been there, but he really did click with Nylander. And
yeah, I mean, especially going into the what they call the platform year or the final year of his ELC, he doesn't want to rock the boat. He doesn't want all of a sudden to have to get used to a new line mate who's going to possibly affect his statistics. He wants the guy who set him up to score 40 goals in his rookie season and 34 or 35 goals in his second year. He wants that guy. I completely understand that point of view from Matthews, but the organizational position is when you have 4 forwards who are going to be making big money starting next year. And right now you're paying John Tavares 11, and you're probably going to be paying Austin Matthews more than 11. And Mitch Marner on with the final year of his ELC playing with Tavares, who's probably he could score anywhere from 70 to 85 points. William Nylander is a complementary player to Austin Matthews. You can't pay him $8 million. You can pay him 6. You can pay him 6.5. You cannot pay him 8, and that's where I think the divide is.
Here's where I think the slotting is. I think they want Nylander in for like 7 years, and they might even go like 6, 7, 5 a year. Then they could go and sign Matthews because he's going to be the highest guy. That you go the lowest guy, then you go the highest guy. And then Marner's in the middle. That's the plan. If that plan breaks down, then what will happen is Nylander will get a bridge deal and get traded. But even if he gets a 7-year deal, he's not getting a no move, no trade.
No, he can't. You can't. And the thing is, I think you're absolutely right, Russ, is the fact that they'll get Nylander signed at some point, and then the next contract will be Matthews because. Because they're not going to be as stupid as Peter Chiarelli was by signing McDavid and then having Leon Draisaitl go and say, "Well, I'm not $6 million worse than Connor McDavid. Give me 8."
Right.
They're not going to do that.
No.
Yeah. I think that's going to be that contract's going to be so fascinating. The Matthews contract I've talked about before.
But I think that's the way they're planning on doing it, and the only one who could change that is William Nylander and his camp, and so. The thing is, if he really were to look around the league, the Leafs are a great situation. So at some point, you've got to do like a risk assessment and say, okay, I could get $8 million somewhere, no question. In 2 years, I could probably get 8.5 somewhere. Right. And if I sign a 2-year thing here, that's where it's headed. But am I going to win?
Well,
I could win in Toronto in 2 years. It's possible.
Well, that's the question I was going to write about in the next couple of days is what is victory for Kyle Dubas? I think a Bridges victory, and I think a 6-year deal at between Pasternak and say Monahan, 6.5, something like that, is victory. If it's 7.5, if it's 8, he's lost.
Okay.
It's not like that though, but I look at it a little differently. I think in another week, everybody's lost. There's no victory anymore. It doesn't matter what the deal is because he's already behind what he should be for the regular season. We've seen what happened when players don't start the season on time. Dubas didn't get the job done because he didn't get him in. So it's no longer a victory for anybody at that point.
Yeah, I think that the only negative about it stretching into the regular season is the possible negative ramifications of Nylander not being up to snuff if he's not been skating.
Like if he misses all the preseason, there's no way Babcock's playing him game 1.
Yeah, no, he might play him, but he might play him on the 4th line. It may be Tyler Ennis on.
I agree. I think he won't play game 1.
I don't think he'll play at all.
No,
I don't think he would because the way Babcock is, he's not going to do that to the players who've been there all preseason working hard.
Right.
It's just you got to send a message. You can't, and I know it's part of the business and everything like that, but you still have to send a message.
Now, just one more quick Leaf thing, and then we can get into a few other things. Yeah. Russ, they cut a few players today. One of them being Rasmus Sandin, their 1st-round pick from this year, and they send him to the Toronto Marlies. Now that is not to say that they sent him to the AHL camp. That is not to say that he's not going to go back to the SHL.
No, they're testing him out in the AHL.
But he has played very well in preseason games. They like what they've seen. He has shown a lot of composure for a young player. Before camp, I would have said it's probably 80-20 he's going to play with Rogel. Now I think it's 50-50. He's played well enough that they think he's good enough to play in the American Hockey League right away.
You know what my feelings were preseason? He was going to be 100% playing in the AHL to start the season. That was always my feeling. That was the way they positioned this from the start of camp. Mm-hmm. He hasn't played in any way to make me think it's going to be otherwise. Do I think they've inflated his value more than he is? Yeah. Because he's Kyle Dubas's one of his first big picks. And so I do think he's getting a little extra push, but I also feel like they want him around so they could watch him a little bit more in Toronto rather than overseas. And I think that's why I felt like no matter what, he's starting with the Marlies. And
I would be one to call them out if he had not played up to snuff. And I've been fairly impressed with the fact that he's 18 years old. He's stood the physical pounding that and he's been very composed, even to the point of playing on the power play in the game on Monday. So I think they're saying as long as we can give him enough ice time for him to learn and him to grow, then he's going to stay with the Marlies. If it's a question of him being the 8th or 9th defenseman and him not playing, then he goes back to Rogel. But I think right now they're open, and it's going to be interesting to track. So I will follow that.
Yeah. Absolutely, for sure.
Now, Zach Smith did clear waivers for Ottawa.
Yeah.
So that was. And the one thing interesting is that there was a lot of talk about Zach Smith being shopped.
Yeah.
This is just symptomatic of a cheap organization. Is that they wanted draft picks back for Zach Smith, who apparently I think he scored 5 goals last year, and he's making 3.25 for another 3 years.
A couple of years ago, he had 20-something goals. It was an aberration.
Right. They wouldn't take a contract back. They wouldn't save money. They wouldn't retain money on a contract. Come on. Are you purely interested in, first of all, you're not tanking because you don't have your own 1st-round pick. What in the hell are you doing, Eugene Melnyk and Pierre Dorian? What are you doing?
I don't understand, and especially with the like we talked about with the Matt Duchene quote yesterday, which really, where he said that this was a real kick in the groin to them. I just felt like this is a terrible. This is a needless thing to do. Like it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. There's no point in this unless there's the one thing we don't know. Okay, and I have to throw this out there because when we heard the weird stuff that came out about the locker room and stuff like that. Before, with the wives arguing and different things like that, I was told by somebody on the team that wasn't the only situation like that. and that there were other things that were happening in there too, and it was the
But
weird.
every team has all. I think that's an unfair report. It's an unfair report because every team has crap going on that we will never find out.
I said that too. I said, well, what are you talking? Are you talking about like the normal crap that happens? I mean, girlfriends not liking each other, that's not uncommon. Okay, so that's perfectly fine. Jealousy going on, that's perfectly fine. He said, no, it had nothing to do with the girlfriends. There was another like, and faction, which happens on teams that are struggling too, or factions for him, and that's not uncommon either. But he said there were other things that were not as bad as that one, of course, but really disconcerting. So you're right, Russ, that it might just be, I can't quantify it as to whether it's bigger or than other teams have it or whatever. But when something like this happens with Zach Smith, I do have to look towards other situations, like to things that, what's the logic in this? So you're saving the money. Mike's convinced they're trying to save money. That's probably true, but at what cost?
It could also be motivation. Like I said to Russ, I think
they're giving him a kick in the pants.
Okay, yeah, that's the case. Then maybe that's good.
And the kick in the pants might be okay. And supposedly they're going to play him with Brady Tkachuk and Mark Stone. Talk about trying to inflate his value. So if they put him with those two guys and he starts scoring, then maybe they'll be able to trade him down the line. But we're talking about a team here who Matt Duchene is sort of playing out of position. He has been the center. He's been a winger, but he's playing center for them sort of out of necessity. Yeah. Pajot is going to be out for 6 months. And now you're talking about trading a guy who a few years ago, as Russ said, scored 20-plus goals.
He went from 25 to 16 to 5.
Yeah.
Something's going on. That's a massive drop. So something's going on, and I think they're just trying to kick him in the pants. But I think there's something else that we should talk about that goes into this whole thing when guys are going on waivers. The Islanders sent Tanner Fritz through on waivers, right? And this guy played great in camp. Most times you would think, somebody's going to pick him up. Nobody picked him up. Lou gives a comment like, well, there's such a glut of guys on waivers right now this time of the year. I felt like it was a good time to do it and he'd be safe. And that is like something where Lou could say that with confidence.
Isn't that crazy?
Because there's this unwritten thing with GMs that when you get to be like a week or two before training camp, you let my guys go down, I'll let your guys go down.
Yeah, to a certain extent, I think that's true. But also, I think there are GMs out there that don't want to cross Lou. But here's the thing, and here's the thing that I think is of course, going back to Toronto, the McElhinney Sparks.
Back to Toronto.
Yeah, I know the center of the universe is Toronto, but the McElhinney Garrett Sparks thing is that Garrett Sparks, who has to clear waivers, who was AHL goaltender of the year, he's played terribly in camp. He's of the 4 top goaltenders, Anderson, Pickard, McElhinney, and Sparks. Sparks has performed the worst. But I was told by a scout on the weekend that if Garrett Sparks if they try to put him through waivers, that some team will pick him up. The same goes with McElhinney. You've got three teams right now. Philadelphia with their 2 injured goaltenders, Winnipeg with Laurent Boisson as their backup, and Louis Domingue in Tampa Bay, that if the Curtis McElhinney, who was the best statistical backup goaltender in the NHL, gets put on waivers, they're going to pick him up.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, that's the one case where I think somebody would pick up McElhinney. I think Sparks is safe if they send him down. I agree. It's all about right now, this time of the year, if you're getting a guy like McElhinney, you're either sending somebody down, cutting somebody, because you know that he can go in and do the job with 100% certainty and no questions about it. You don't know that about Garrett Sparks yet. Even though I like him and I think he's a good goalie, you don't know that yet, that you could do that.
And Toronto may wait until, remember, I think the rosters have to be at 23 by Tuesday at 5 p.m.
And they'll wait until then.
They'll probably they have to clear waivers. I think they have to clear waivers before that time. So that means Monday.
Then.
Whatever the last possible moment it is for them to put their cuts through, that's what they're going to do, because everybody else will have settled on their rosters or close to it, and maybe they think they can sneak whoever they want to get through. But I don't think it's going to be. I don't think that either one of them will sneak through.
Yeah, I agree.
Be interesting to see. I mean, I do think the Flyers are going to pick up a goalie. Just from.
I'm surprised they didn't pick up Hutchinson.
I am really surprised they didn't pick up Hutchinson.
But again, I think it goes along with the feeling that he is not a guarantee. So They have Anthony Stolarz, who's healthy enough to play right now. how many games will Anthony Stolarz actually play?
Almost a year. As you know, he missed almost a year.
No, I know, but he won't even play. Is my point. They will play Elliott for like the first. There's 5 games in 7 nights, something like that. They will play Elliott that whole time, and by then somebody else will be healthy, whether it's Neuwirth, who we don't hear about, or Lyon will come back a little sooner. Like something else will happen,
maybe,
or they'll play Stolarz for 1 game. Like that's all we're talking about. That's why Hextall hasn't really done anything.
Or maybe Gritty will play.
Or maybe, yeah.
That's possible. All right. Speaking of Gritty, let's move on to the New York Rangers, okay? Because the Rangers, we're going to talk about the 2 New York teams today, and they're 2 totally different teams in totally different situations. But both, for the first time, I think, as I can ever remember, they finished last in the division, both of these teams. And I can't ever remember that happening. I did one of my crazy 30 predictions last year was the Islanders would finish ahead of the Rangers. I was right, but barely. I thought both teams would be half decent.
But they had to sell off their team to make it happen.
Yeah, no, they did, and I thought both teams would be more in the middle of the pack than where they ended up. Both finishing below Carolina. Remember, as we sit there and talk about Carolina, both these teams finished below Carolina last year. Craziness. The Rangers, let's go through some of the numbers, and then Russ will get into some of the players that are the keys here. Goals per game, 2.82. That puts them at 21st in the NHL. This is a team that, like we said before, they score by committee, which always means you don't have any scoring. That's always been my joke about when people say we're getting goals by committee. That means you really don't have any scoring. Right. Goals against per game. This is this crazy number. We talked about the Montreal Canadiens being 30th with Carey Price.
Yeah.
The New York Rangers were 28th with Henrik Lundqvist. So
not for the first half of the season and a little longer.
Yeah.
It really went in the tank after the All-Star break. It really went in the tank.
Right. Now here's the disconnect, okay? And this is why the coaching change is probably a big deal. Could help out. The disconnect is that usually those goals per game and goals against per game correlate pretty well with the power plays and penalty kill percentages.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not great, but sometimes the power play was 12th in the league and the penalty kill was 10th. So that tells you that their high-end players, are still high-end players. That like when you go on the power play and you get 12th in the league, that means you still have some top players that can score on the power play. Penalty killing 10th, that's really good. I mean, that tells you that that for a team that finishes with 77 points to have that good a power play and penalty kill is rare. I mean, that's really rare. But that just shows that this team 5-on-5 was disastrous. I mean, but as far as penalty killing and power play, that was pretty good. Now, the weirdest statistic for them, I always try to find the strangest stat for them, for any team, is that when it came to shots per goal percentage, which means that this is how often did you outshoot the other team, basically.
Right.
They were last in the NHL. So they were outshot more than anybody else in the league.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. I don't honestly, I don't think shots in the NHL matter. I don't.
I think it maybe not, but it is usually a pretty good sign. I mean, usually bad teams are last in those categories, and Lundqvist is the kind of goalie who does like to get a lot of action. So that with the Rangers, I would play it a little bit. It doesn't matter as much because it is Lundqvist, and he's not the kind of goalie that wants to have be out shooting the other team. Lundqvist plays better when he's getting 30 shots on goal than when he's getting 20. So that's the kind of areas, but that was still a kind of a strange stat. The save percentage was 13th, which is not bad for being 28th in goals against. That just shows you how much they were being outshot, because the save percentage and the goals against usually work together, right? So their save percentage to be 13th in the league, that just shows you that they were getting terribly outshot, and Lundqvist was doing everything he could, but the defense was terrible. That's how I read that. If you were to read that, especially. Last thing before I let you guys get into it from there. The age of the 20-man roster, I've been talking about this a lot. Where do you guys, I don't know if you guys have looked, but if you haven't looked, where would you guess they stand? Like, are they the first youngest? Are they the 31st?
Bottom third. I mean, I think they're one of the 10 youngest teams.
Okay. Right. What do you think, Russ? Same thing?
Yeah, I do think that. Yeah,
they're the sixth youngest team, but with the second youngest top 12 forward group in the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
So that is really pretty fascinating, considering they do have Matt Zuccarello on that as part of that average, and he's 31 years old, right? So that means they really have a really young group of forwards. And
that's what they've been trading for, and that's what they've been drafting with, and that's what they've been bringing in mostly. But
Mhm.
but here's the thing. All right, so there's a few things.
Yep.
So if you're looking for where can they get up, make up more points, well, Pavel Buchnevich is a good place to look because he could be dynamic on the power play, and he never really got the chance. He did have 5 power play goals and 12 power play assists. He could easily get 25, 28 points on a regular season in the power play and get a lot more than 43 points. He could be up in the 55 range. So there's your one area. They never, ever, ever used the Mestikov right last year. So I think you have to see with, fresh eyes what he looks like. Spooner was ridiculously hot, but Spooner is a really good player. And I think the only reason he was getting marginalized in Boston was because he had a lot of other guys playing the same position. So I think that's a thing where him on the wing now, freeing him up a little bit, he could be a really good scorer for this year. Look, Kreider had the blood clot. He had 28 goals 2 years ago, 16 last year. He could have a nice bounce back season. Zibanejad has one of the best one-timers in the league. Like on the power play, it's beautiful. Like he could do even more on the power play. But the problem is their defense still stinks. Look, you could say what you want. I hate the phrase tough hombre for McQuaid, but they traded for a guy for a 1-year deal. They're going to throw him in the top 4 when you've got young guys. So really, you got Shea, Shattenkirk, Stahl, McQuaid, Brendan Smith, and then your last spot is going to be down to like Neil Pionk, who played some last year, and Anthony DeAngelo, where it really should be both of them. And this way you could see how they do in their second season, both of them. Now one of them is going to get sent back to Hartford because you brought in an older guy. And again, it's not a situation where they have to watch out for the young guys because Shea, Shattenkirk, Stahl, like you could split them all up. You didn't need – and Brendan Smith's not a kid. You could have split them all up. And you wouldn't need to do this.
It's possible. It's possible that they rotate some of those young guys. You could have 7 or 8 and do sort of a mix master type of thing. Where but to Russ's point, I mean, this is clearly a rebuilding team, and I'm of the mind that having Henrik Lundqvist win games for you is sort of going to defeat the purpose of sort of bottoming out. But I mean, he's an institution there. He's a great goaltender. He's still a great goaltender. And in 2 or 3 years down the road, he still may be viable enough to be able to be their goaltender when they're contending.
If you have to win games, Mike, you have to win.
Right, exactly. Yes. I know it's the antithesis of your mindset that really you actually try to build your team into a winner, but excuse me. But where I think this team is going, obviously, I think that, guys like Lias Andersson and Cheadle are going to play at some point this year. I don't know if it's going to be at the start of the year or if it's going to be later on, if they start the year at Hartford or if they make the team. But I think you see unrestricted free agents at the end of this year in Hayes, in Zuccarello, and in McQuaid. I think McQuaid, they got basically to eat up minutes and trade at the deadline as somebody they could probably get a little bit of a higher pick for. And I think Hayes, they signed him on the 1-year deal for that specific purpose. Zuccarello, as Russ has said, he's best buddies with Lundqvist. Maybe he resigns there. Maybe he's been a lifelong Ranger. Maybe he stays there. But that's the mindset. It's like, get those players, get them to play well, move them out, bring up the young guys, and build that way. And that's where the Rangers are. And I'm on board with it. I think they're doing a good job.
Here's what I would do. They have a million guys that could play center. So if there's any injuries, there's no problem. But I would make Lias Andersson the third line center. I would put Kevin Hayes on the wing. I would put Cheadle on the wing. And then this way they don't have to worry about how many centers they have to send one of these guys down because they all should be playing at this point. Because really the end game is you're going to be one of the 7 worst teams in the league, even with Henrik Lundqvist. But by next year, you can make big gains in the free agent market. And guess what? Then you still have Henrik Lundqvist. That's what they're looking at.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They don't want to say it right now. That's all.
Right. It's not good optics to say we're not going to be good, but they're not going to be good. Right. And that's there's even if they start off the season with higher even if they start off the season winning and being competitive, in the end they're not good enough to make the playoffs. But that's the plan. And the more important thing than winning games right now is developing your young players to be good 2 or 3 years down the road. That's why
I'll give you the analogy. David Quinn comes in there. He might get everybody to play like a house on fire for a couple of months, and they could be like the Philadelphia Phillies, but in the end, they will come up short too.
Right.
Couple of things. Go
Good.
ahead. No,
No, I was just saying, I would play guys like Jimmy Vesey in your top 6 because he's been in the league for a couple years. And maybe that won't happen, but I mean, I would give him more of an opportunity. He's, some people think he's been underwhelming in his couple years. I think he's sort of on track, and if he has a big year, then I think that makes him look even smarter that they got him as a free agent. But in terms of playing, I would play Anderson and Cheadle over Matt Bolesky and Cody McLeod. You've got to play the young guys and let them bloody their nose and get used to the NHL or play every day in the AHL and develop them the right way.
Right. The one thing they did that was significant that's going to impact their lineup was getting Adam McQuaid from Boston just a couple months ago. And or just this month, actually.
Here's the thing. Short of 80, 90 penalty minutes and 4 goals, how much is he really going to impact the team? It's not a lot.
He's going to impact the team by what they get for him. I really think that's what it is, Russ. He's there to eat minutes. He's there to stick up for young kids. And on February 25th, he will not be on the Rangers.
You'll get a 3rd-round pick for him. That's all you're going to get.
Right, which is better than the 4th-round pick they gave up.
They do have a lot of decisions to make over the next couple years, this team, because they really don't have anybody signed past, like, I was trying to look the.
No, they don't. I mean, Lundqvist
Zabinajad is the only forward they have assigned past 2020, and
the player they have beyond 2021 is Brady Shea.
Yes.
Yeah. So everybody ends in 19, 20, or 21. So the whole group is. I mean, they have a massive turnover.
Oh, no, Shattenkirk should be going past 2021.
Shattenkirk was a 4-year deal. He's up in
2021. Yeah, that's what he goes to. So, I mean, that's it. I mean, and they really have a lot. A couple interesting things about the drafting of this team and where they're from and stuff like that, which people have been into. Okay, so this is a largely 1st-round draft pick team. They have 10 1st-round draft picks in their lineup. But they also have more than I think this is more than any team we've done so far, having 6 players of their top 20 that are 4th round or beyond. So that's so really they have just you're either in the 1st round or you're basically beyond the 4th round.
Well, Zuccarello was a free agent, so
Zuccarello, who was completely who's obviously wasn't drafted at all. But they've made homegrown wise they have a good number, Russ. I mean, this is like homegrown. There's 14 homegrown players in their lineup. And that includes players they signed, out of Europe.
And there's other really good guys that they traded for. Brett Howden is close. Like they're in a really good spot now, and that's why you have to play these guys if you want to advance things. You can't let Matt Bolesky and those kinds of guys suck up minutes. Now, Here's the thing. This is where we're at in the NHL, okay? Even if you tell a coach, hey, we're rebuilding, when you're a brand new coach and you're coming from like a situation like Boston University and you have a little bit of a reputation, that coach does not want to lose a lot of games. And that's why they brought in Adam McQuaid, and that's why a couple of other veterans will play instead of young players, because he's going to try his darndest to win, and then maybe by half season – when the GM starts trading guys, he won't have a choice but to play a lot of the younger guys. But I'm telling you, this is the problem with the league. And we talked about this yesterday, too. Dave Haxtell, same thing. You could talk about all these young guys that look great in camp until you're blue in the face. But at the end of the day, all the veterans are going to play for Dave Haxtell. Yeah.
That is the truth. And I mean, they went out and they signed a couple guys in May last year that were really kind of under the radar in Ville Meskinen and Michael Lundqvist or Lindqvist, right? Lindqvist.
Yeah. Lindqvist, he was drafted. He was a hell of a draft pick. He is a really, again, when he was playing in the Five Nations, we were there to see Adam Boqvist. And Boqvist, you couldn't tell what his number was. And Lindqvist had a very similar number. And we all thought that was Adam Boqvist for a couple shifts. And we're like, wow, look how good he looks. Then we realized, oh, that's not Boqvist, it's Lindqvist.
Funny, according to Ross Resource, he wasn't drafted. But I guess he was. So that's just but he was signed out of the SHL, it says. So I guess he's 24 years old.
Hold on.
24 years old.
Now,
that's a different guy then. I'm talking about
talking about Michael Lindquist. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not talking about her. Okay.
Yeah, different. Lindquist.
Now the interesting thing will be the timetable for their first round pick.
I'm talking about Niels Lundqvist.
Lundqvist. Sorry, yes, I was just about to say that's definitely okay. Cool. Yeah.
I know that was my confusion.
The interesting thing for us is the timetable for their first round pick from this year, the top pick, the Russian kid. Whether now he's playing in the KHL this year, whether it's going to be a year or 2 years or 3 years. I mean, depending on the length of the KHL contract. But he was drafted 6th overall. So I mean,
he's going to play next year. That's the plan.
Okay.
Are there more Canadians or U.S. players on the Rangers?
U.S.
I've been guessing you're going U.S.
U.S.
You're right. 6 U.S., 5 Canadian, 4 Swedes. So
to be honest, if you look at the Rangers, mostly in their existence, they always are loaded with U.S. players.
They have been. That's very true. It's very true. But they have now more U.S. and almost have as many Swedes as they have Canadians. The best draft pick they've ever had that is playing in their lineup. This is another thing I started to do the other day, which is kind of fun.
Best draft pick that they have in their. I mean, Lundqvist was what, a 3rd round pick?
He was a sixth or seventh.
Seventh. He is the worst draft pick they have in their lineup.
Right.
205th overall.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. So
you're saying worst in terms of lowest.
Worst in terms of like I'm saying
yes.
Highest or lowest, I should just say.
Okay.
Pick.
I'm going to go Chris Kreider.
No.
Pavel. Are these players?
Kreider was 19th overall.
Zibanejad was 4th overall.
6th overall, yeah.
Or 6th overall.
So and Elias Anderson was 7th.
Kreider like 10th?
Kreider was 19th, it says.
19th. Okay, I thought he was like 10th. Okay.
Yeah, so they have they have a really but it's pretty crazy that Lundqvist is I mean
just for the crap stuff hype, because there is too much hype. Mm-hmm. He's played 9 games, he has 3 points. Nobody's talking about it. Everybody talked about his preseason. Let's show his goals. Let's put everything on YouTube. Now all of a sudden the season has started and he's got 3 points in 9 games and there's crickets.
Yeah.
So everybody's got to slow their roll with this.
What do you think of Alexander Georgiev?
Georgiev, he might be the backup. They had Mazinik and they have Tokarski. I think Mazinik is the guy they've slated the job to be honest.
Okay. And the only reason that they wouldn't get into claiming a McElhaney or somebody else who's really good on waivers is because this is a rebuilding year and they're going to see if Georgiev can play, or they have these other guys who have played back up in the league, and that's where they're going to go. Now, just before we go to the Islanders, I have some absolutely stunning news from our friend Joe Yerdon, who reports that Zach Bogosian will be evaluated later today that he is out with a lower body ailment. I'm shocked.
Yeah.
I'm stunned.
Stinks.
Here's the thing. Matt Molson got sent down to the Ontario Reign again.
Yes.
They should send Bogosian with him. They really should.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm still surprised that they didn't buy him out, but I guess,
He's a good guy. I get it. But I would just, at this point, again, Murray made some really awful trades, and until Zach Bogosian's gone, that is a reminder of that.
And until right, exactly. And there's
I'm not as bad. I'm not as tough on Bogosian as you guys are, but I knew. Are
you kidding me?
I'm serious.
He's a gimp. He can't stay healthy.
I know he can't stay healthy, but I don't know. I'm not just not. You guys think he's terrible? I don't think he's terrible.
And he was drafted ahead of Alex Pietrangelo. How was that?
Yeah, no. There's no. I mean, obviously you can do that with everybody, though. Come on now. I mean,
the most points he's had in a season is 30.
Yeah. Well,
30.
Yeah. All right. I'm not gonna win that argument.
I would honestly, in that deal, Tyler Myers, after missing more than a year with an injury that he had in Winnipeg, has been a bigger success in Winnipeg than Zach Bogosian in Buffalo.
Ask Don Waddell, who drafted him 3rd overall, if he would change his mind on that.
Yeah, no, I know. He came in that crazy year with all the. I mean, that was.
But he's never had more than 30 points or 10 goals.
I would have to say Luke Shen has almost been as successful, and he's considered a bust.
All right. Well, we'll agree to disagree.
As we normally do.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably more right that this is definitely not a mountain I'm willing to die on. I'm just telling you that I think that it's. that I don't think is as bad overall. Like I think it is a very serviceable defenseman for them, and I think that he's not what he was expected to be, but I think that he's definitely a top 6 NHL defenseman.
If he could stay healthy,
he can stay healthy, and that's
right.
Of course that is a huge if. Let's move on to another huge if: the New York Islanders.
Yeah.
The Islanders. Working on my transitions lately. I guess you guys have noticed that.
I like it. No, it's good.
All right, so the New York Islanders.
I've got whiplash, but go ahead.
Not hard to find the craziest stat on this team because it is right off the top, and it is the widest spread of goals per game and goals against per game. So they were 8th most goals per game last year at 3.22, and that's great. And 31st in goals against at 3.61. So that is a spread of 23.
But they're the most changed team in the league too.
Oh yeah, they are the most changed team. But last year was crazy.
Right. So I don't even know if we could talk about their numbers, but
yeah, I agree with you. We're going to go through them fast. Power play was 6th, penalty kill 31st again. But you're taking Tavares out of here, so that changes things obviously. Oh, yeah. They were only it's funny, the 2 New York teams, the worst shooting teams in the world. This was the 30th worst team as far as getting outshot. So there's something about the water in that area that you get outshot badly because both those teams were outshot horribly all year. The most disturbing stat on the Islanders to me though is their 20-man roster and how old they are, which their average age is guess out of 1 to 31.
I'm going to say 29.
Yeah, I was going to say like 28.
Yeah, 27th. You guys are both very close.
Yeah.
27th oldest team. So when you are a team that is not expected to do well, and you're the 27th oldest team that's not expected to do well at all,
and with the exception of Matthew Barzal, most of your core group are not older. I mean, you've got Aberle, who's a little, and Ladd, and Bailey's in his 20s, Nelson's in his 20s. Clutterbuck is older. They add Komarov and
Filppula, who's old.
Yeah, so I mean, and their top 2 defensemen. I mean, Boychuk, I believe, is 30, and Leddy is close to 30. So they've got some young guys, but the young guys who we've talked about, like Del Cole and Beauvillier and Ho-Sang, they really haven't. I mean, they just started to sort of get infused in the lineup, and I think
none of them are. Beauvillier makes it. Obviously, the other 2 aren't. So
right, and that's the thing. We thought that these players would be established by now, and they're not. And this is obviously a transition year. The talents of Lou Lamoriello will be tested to their nth degree in Long Island or in Brooklyn as they were in Toronto about getting rid of contracts that nobody thought that there was a possibility of them getting rid of. Johnny Boychuk at $6 million per for another 3 years is a onerous contract, especially how he started to decline. Andrew Ladd, $5.5 million for another 4 years after this year is a disaster.
Yeah.
Now there are some good deals, and he's got to get some players signed. Brock Nelson and Anders Lee are UFAs. I don't think they're going to try to trade them as rentals. But Jordan Eberle is a rental. Filppula is a rental. Yeah. And probably maybe one other player out there.
This is a two-line team. Like, this is a team that's going to get very little bottom 6 scoring. Like, you're going to need goals out of Kazikis, out of Clutterbuck.
Yeah.
I mean, Kunako you can't count on. Filppula, as Ek and I know, he was better on the PK as far as scoring chances than 5-on-5.
Right.
Komarov will get some goals. It's not enough. Even Eberle isn't getting 30. Brock Nelson's not getting 30. Lee will get 30. Josh Bailey won't. I mean,
well, this team is going to change the way they play. I mean, they're going to change.
They lost 30 power play points with Tavares. He had 12 goals and 18 assists. Who's making that up?
I mean, I mean, it's going to be tough to. I mean, they're not. No one's going to make that up. I mean, Barzal is a stud. I mean, he's a star, and he's going to do better than he did. He's going to continue to get better.
And Leddy is a gifted offensive defenseman, and Pulak has got a howitzer for a shot. But I look at their defense, and you see Mayfield, Pellick, Spiza, Hickey.
Yeah.
They're all 5s and 6s, and they're some of them are going to have to play 3 and 4.
What's
And
funny, they put roster resource put Lucas Visa as their 4th defenseman.
I know, which
there you go.
really bad.
And the worst thing, and I'm sort of burying the lead here. Thomas Greiss has proved over the last few years that he's a 1B. He's not a number 1 goaltender. And they bring in Robin Leonard, and Robin Leonard, I have all sympathy for what happened with him in Buffalo and the travails that he's had off the ice. But Robin Leonard's the key to him is his inconsistency. It's consistent. He has never been able to put a year together. Now is at a crossroads in his career. He's making $1.5 million. Buffalo walked away from his contract. If he has a good year and he stands on his head, he earns himself another contract. If he doesn't, he's probably an NHL backup, or he heads back to Sweden. The goaltending situation is not good, at least right now. Currently,
he's going to be playing like 28 minutes a game.
Yeah, and what I had heard, I think it was Elliot Friedman reported it a couple weeks ago, that they will target, if he hits free agency, Sergei Bobrovsky, and that makes a lot of sense. This is a transition year for the Islanders, it really is.
Yeah.
Again, if I'm the Islanders, I will tell you this right now, cautionary tale, and I like Bob. No way I'm paying him the kind of money he's going to ask for. No way.
He's going to make as much as Lundqvist.
You know what I would rather do? If for some reason Pekka gets ousted out of Nashville, I'd rather pick him up for 2 years.
Or Varlamov.
Right. Or Varlamov. I would go that.
I think Varlamov is the guy they've been targeting, and they did try to get him at the draft right after the trade.
Here's the thing. Let's be realistic about the Islanders. They're not winning this year. They're not winning the Stanley Cup next year. Right now, like Mike said, Lou's motive for this year is to get as much money off the books as possible because they already have so much cap space, too much for a New York team, for my estimation. And if you look at this team, this is like a bad New Jersey Devils team. That's what this looks like. They have some good players, but not enough in the areas that count. And Lou is sort of like getting a pass on this because he's Lou Lamoriello. If any other GM came in and fielded a team like this in New York, they would get killed.
Yeah, I mean, he picked up, Kunackle and Filppula, really feel like trade deadline pickups, that they're going to be moved at some point, right? Because they're.
But Val Filppula, like we watched him last year, there's no upside for Val Filppula. There is none.
They get moved at the deadline to somebody who needs a penalty killer. That's what they'll do.
And I don't know what their line combos are, but I would be surprised if Trotz is not putting Eberle with Barzal, because if he is, that's going to immediately. I mean, they're going to try to inflate Eberle's numbers, get him like to 25 to 30 goals, and then ship him out at the deadline, because I don't think they're gonna re-sign him. And if you could have
like a Lou type player, though, Eberle does.
I'm not so sure.
Team, and what will happen is fans will fall in love with their fourth line, because if they use like Filppula, Komarov, and Kunackle, they'll be active out there. They'll be pushing guys out there. But at the end of the day, this team needs goal scorers badly.
Yeah.
Volier is not a big-time goal scorer.
And
the big-time goal scorers they have are Eberle, Barzal, and Anders Lee. Everybody else is secondary scoring.
And it's sort of like the same thing with Sonny Milano in Columbus, Russ. Is like you have Josh Hosang, who in a brief window in his NHL career looked dynamic offensively, but because of all the issues, of him being sort of, I don't know if it's antisocial or what, but there's a lot of off the ice stuff that just seems to not conform to what some coaches want. He's been sent to the minors. I don't know about his future in that organization, but he's got a lot of talent, and you would think that they, with them being challenged to score, that a guy like this would get more of an opportunity.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of talk about this whole idea that, like, is it the Clutterbuck, Kasikas, and Martin line is like the reuniting of a line, right, on the island?
All that is the reuniting of, hey, this is great. They'll elbow guys' heads into the glass. They'll stick up for some players, but it'll be slapshottish. That's what it's going to be.
The problem is they've got 2 fourth lines.
Right.
That's a fourth line, and I think the other combo is Komarov, Kovac, and Filppula. And if that's the case, you've got 2 fourth lines.
Yeah.
And usually a team that's successul, they have they could say, well, we have 3 second lines. No, this team's got 2 fourth lines.
Well, but they can roll 4 lines. They will roll 4 lines.
Of course they're going to have to.
Yes,
they have to. And I think, and their plan, and because the way Trotz does things, they're such a difficult team to predict because of that. Like we also have a lot of old players who are, thinking this is their last shots. There's a lot of different kind of dynamics going on in this team. This makes them a very hard team to predict in my mind. Like everybody seems to think they're going to be a 70-point team or whatever. I don't know. I'm not convinced that they're going to be that terrible. I mean, they're not
going to make the playoffs. I can't say they're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah,
they would have to make a massive move at the deadline. They would have to get someone like Panarin, and Leonard would have to be at the top of his game.
Yeah,
and maybe I can buy it.
No, I mean, making the playoffs is going to be very, very hard. But they're going to be.
Yeah, there's no way.
Hold on, I want to bring up a stat because I think it's astounding, and I remember from day one, I knew this was a gigantic mistake, but Gart Snow did it anyhow. If you look, Cal Clutterbuck in his career has 109 goals. Nino Niederreiter has 103 already.
Yeah. That'll forever be a hot.
2 of them were for the Islanders. The rest have been for Minnesota. How's that trade gone?
Yeah, and he was a 5th overall pick. And Kevin Allen in his projections for USA Today projected the Islanders 77 points.
Yeah, that's
about right. And the thing is like, you will have veterans who buy into the Barry Trotz, take care of your own end and the other end will take care of itself type of thing. But they just don't have enough goal scoring to be able to take advantage of that. That's why they'll be competitive, but they won't be good.
Right.
Yeah. I think they will have a chip on their shoulder.
Will keep games close, but they're going to lose close games all over the place.
The teams I don't want to play early in the season are Ottawa and the Islanders, though, because I think both those teams will have chips on their shoulders early on. I think that eventually that'll fade, but I think early those are going to be dangerous teams to play because Ottawa's better than people.
And Thomas in the chat room says, "Hey, Beauvillier will get 30 goals. He might just because of opportunity. He might suck up that extra Tavares time.
Yeah. But
again, how many 30-goal scorers will you have on this team?"
Yeah, that's not saying much. The leading goal scorer on the Maple Leafs the year that they finished last was P.A. Parento.
Yeah.
Former Islander. So there you go. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was definitely. So it's the couple of little things here before we get out of here. The Islanders, 9 first-round draft picks. Several of them Garth's, picks. I mean, the first 3, the top line, so we want to say about they're all Garth draft picks. They've all turned out to be first round picks. They've all turned out to be good players. They have 11 Canadians and only 3 Americans on this team. So when we get to that, and then it's basically American Canadian team, Finland 2, Germany 2, Sweden 1. Homegrown 8 players, homegrown on the 20 roster. This has changed a lot since Lou. I mean, if you were to do this at the beginning of last year, they had a lot of homegrown players. So this has changed a lot in the last year.
Hold on, I got breaking news, and you guys will love this. So Thomas in the chat room said if the Islanders get decent goaltending, they'll be in the top 3 in the Metro. It is impossible for the Islanders to be top 3 in the Metro. Impossible.
The only way they'll be top 3 in the Metro is if Matt Martin goes on a killing spree and kills Malkin, Crosby, Ovechkin. Yeah, no.
From a sensibility standpoint, just think about that.
Thomas, I love you, but no, it's not happening.
It's improbable, but it's not impossible.
Nothing's impossible, Eck. I get it.
No, it isn't. I mean, look what we did.
You could be president someday, Eck. I get it.
No,
Yeah,
I'm not going to be ever.
right now.
I will never be president. There's no way in hell. I've already got enough people saying bad things about me on the internet that I will never be president. But that, and I would never want the job. But we've learned enough now that you can't sit back and say anything's impossible. I mean, it's not there. I mean, I think
it's not happening.
It's a weird year for the Islanders. It's a weird year for Rangers and Islanders fans. Both of them are going to have a strange season. And it could, but both have the potential to surprise people. And that's just the NHL, right? There are some teams that feel like they can't, but both these teams, I think, the Rangers are still such a confusing team. I don't buy that they're rebuilding.
Look, it's possible the Islanders could be better than the Rangers, but that's not saying much. If the Islanders are better than the Rangers, they're probably like 6 points better. Who cares?
Yeah, no, I'm not. I agree. But last year you laughed me off the stage when I said that would happen. So I'm just going to
again. A lot of things happened that you didn't think were going to happen either. But fine, you got it right. There you go.
Finish ahead of the Rangers. All right, remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.